Understanding how to use a fill light will definitely level up your lighting IQ. I'm sure you know the basics of using a fill card or adding an additional light, but to understand the next level of using a fill light, stick around. We will talk about using V-flats, mirrors, a simple umbrella, to large frames with diffusion. So there are two types of fill light. We have an active fill light and we have a passive fill light. A passive fill light is a reflector bouncing light back onto your subject, and an active fill light is a second light source shining light onto your subject. For this demonstration, my main light is going to be a Westcott 400 watt-second strobe with a 45-degree deep focus reflector. Let's start by using V-flat Whirl V-flats for a passive fill, which changes the exposure of our shadows from a 6-stop difference to a 3.4 stop difference. The first image shows negative fill being used, and now the passive fill being added using a white V-flat. Now let's switch to using a mirror as a passive fill instead of our V-flat. The mirror will add about a half a stop more light. Again, starting with the negative fill and then adding the mirror, you can see the difference. Now I specifically chose this dress because it will show one of the biggest differences when using a mirror versus a white V-flat. Starting with the image of the mirror, and then switching to the white fill using the V-flat, you can see how the white fill gives us more reflections in the dress. So this is something to definitely consider when asking what type of fill surface you want to use. A silver reflector will give you a bit of both worlds, a little added punch and the ability to add direct reflections to highly reflective surfaces like the dress. The benefit of using a passive fill are that you don't need another light, and they tend to give you a natural looking lighting ratio that is pleasing to the eye. The one caveat using a passive fill is that they always need to be illuminated by another light source, so you are limited to where you can position them, and their brightness level can only be controlled by the reflectance of the material you decide to use or the distance you place it away from your subject. And one more time, here you can see the difference between using the white and using the silver. But now let's talk about using an active fill. An active fill is exciting because you can use another light source. I often don't use a fill light opposite my main light like I'm forced to when using a passive fill, but I like to use one right behind my camera. Done properly, putting the fill light behind your camera is like adjusting the shadow slider in post, but it looks way more natural, and it allows you to maintain the same shadow quality but simply brighten up the shadows. So let's look at 3 options for adding this type of fill. First, I'm gonna add a large white umbrella behind me for fill. Here, it metered 1 stop below my main light, then 2 stops below, then 3 stops below, then 4 stops below, and finally 5. I found it adds catch lights to liven up the eyes, but I'm able to maintain the drama of my shadows. Large umbrellas work well when you're limited on the gear that you can pack and want to set up quickly and possibly move your fill light around very quickly as well. But if you want to fill in a larger area, you can use V-flats. If you only have 1 additional light, you can place it behind you, but if you have 2, you can put them to either side of you. This will give you a large catch light in the eyes and a broader fill light than using just umbrellas. Here is a V-flat starting 1 stop below our main light, then 2 stops, then 3 stops, then 4, and finally 5 stops. Now a third technique I like to use is diffusion mounted to a frame. This creates a large diffuse source similar to the V-flats. The benefit of diffusion in a frame is the ability to more easily light evenly, as well as having size options from 4x4 to 20x20 with the ability to mix horizontal and vertical sizes to have a 12x8 for instance. Plus, using diffusion, you can more easily put more lights behind it to get more power if needed. Here is an 8x8 frame using magic cloth as our diffusion, starting at 1 stop below our main light, then 2 stops, then 3 stops, then 4 stops, and finally 5. Another huge benefit of an active fill is the ability to add color to your shadows. Sometimes I like adding a warming filter to my main light and a still green gel to my fill light for warm highlights and cool shadows. So this is almost like color grading on set. But now let's make an image using both passive and active fill light techniques on the same image. I'm gonna start with this image, which incorporates the gelled active fill from the back, also using a V-flat as a passive fill from the front right-hand side of our model. And then I'm gonna add in a mirror as another passive fill from the back right. Now watch what happens when I strip each fill light away. First, I remove the active fill from the front, which was toning our shadows and providing more highlights in the dress. Then I removed the white V-flat fill, which was filling in more shadows from the side and giving more reflections in the dress. Then the mirror fill, which gives us a harder rim light and really makes some of the large sequins in the dress pop. So as you can see, don't feel like you need to practice only one technique when learning advanced lighting. Understanding and incorporating different fill light techniques, you'll be able to get different results and really start to learn to play with the dark and light areas of your image. For a natural looking active fill, I would keep it 2 to 3.5 stops below your main light. And feel free to use any light source from hard direct sources to silver umbrellas or even bouncing light off a wall. There are no hard fast rules here. You should do what looks and feels best to you. Whether you shoot with natural light and you start using a passive fill, or you just want to graduate from just using one light and moving into an active fill, try one of these techniques above to get started. Because as you know, there are levels to this. And if you have questions, drop them below. I come by to check these comments often. And PPA really is about sharing knowledge with other photographers. So please share in the comments below how you dial in your fill light.